Today at 10:33 a.m. Eastern Time, the unmanned Mars lander Hermes touched down on the surface of the Red Planet. This historic event is the first time a man-made object has successfully landed on a neighboring planet. Shortly after Hermes touched down, its robotic rover called Sojourner was successfully deployed and returned the first ever images taken from the Martian surface. Hermes landed in Ares Vallis, a large valley theorized to have been created by water millions of years ago. It was chosen by the Mars team as an ideal spot to explore Mars' present potential for the discovery of water, valuable minerals, and perhaps even signs of life. The endeavor to go to Mars has been a mandate from President Kennedy, who in his very first State of the Union vowed that the U.S. would not allow the Soviet Union to beat us to Mars as they did to the moon. As you can see in this animation provided by NASA, the 11-month journey to Mars neared completion when Hermes entered the Martian atmosphere, guided by orbital observer Hyperion. At that point, Hermes was in a similar position to several prior failed missions, including the U.S. Viking and Soviet Mars landers. But an idea originally developed by the auto industry in Detroit gave NASA the breakthrough they were looking for: airbags. This revolutionary technique, deploying massive airbags to cushion the landing, proved to be the difference, bringing the very first human craft to a successful landing on Mars. This monumental achievement has the nation and the world looking even further into the heavens, imagining what a future on Mars might look like.
Good evening. For weeks now, Americans have been waiting to find out who their next president will be. Tonight, we finally have an answer. President Edward Kennedy has been voted out of office, and Ronald Reagan will be the 39th president of the United States. In a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court ruled this morning that all partially marked ballots cast in the state of Ohio must be counted, giving Reagan a 713-vote margin of victory in the state and the remaining electoral votes needed to win the presidency. The president-elect spoke from Los Angeles this afternoon, where he thanked Mr. Kennedy for a well-run race and expressed his gratitude to the American people.
But just to have had the support of the people of this country. I consider the trust that you have placed in me sacred, and I give you my sacred oath that I will do my utmost to justify your faith.
In light of the court's decision, President Kennedy conceded the election to Mr. Reagan.
There were hard hours on our journey, and often we sailed against the wind. But always we kept our rudder true, and there were so many of you who stayed the course and shared our hope. You gave your help, but even more, you gave your hearts. For all those whose cares have been our concern, the work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die.
Today marked another milestone in the American space program, the launch of Seadragon, the largest rocket ever built. The American cargo rocket took off this morning from the Pacific Ocean, carrying a payload of over 1 million pounds of building supplies, equipment, and fuel for the further development of the Jamestown moon settlement and mining operations. Long a dream of NASA engineers, the Seadragon's initial plans were drawn up in the early 1960s, though it took nearly 2 decades to bring those plans to life. Known as a low-cost, heavy launcher, Seadragon measures in at 490 feet tall, making it the size of a small skyscraper, with a diameter of 75 feet. Because of its size, the rocket was built on the water, using shipbuilding techniques similar to those used to construct freighters and other large boats. Unlike previous smaller supply rockets, Seadragon is almost entirely reusable, which cuts down on the long-term cost of continuing to supply the fledgling moon colony. With mining and scientific operations in full swing, the need for a larger base is paramount. President Reagan spoke of the rocket's potential last night on the eve of the historic launch.
My fellow Americans, tonight we're launching an effort which holds the promise of changing the course of human history. There will be risks, and results take time, but I believe we can do it.
Mr. Reagan, who has taken great interest in the space policy since he assumed office, and who campaigned in part on a platform that promised continued growth of the United States space program, has indicated that he is interested in expanding the rocket's use in the future, both on the moon and beyond.
The 50th Academy Awards were held last night in Hollywood, and all the stars were out to celebrate Oscar's golden anniversary. Bob Hope presided over the show, making this the 19th time the comedian has hosted the Academy Awards. A total of 49 films were nominated in 22 different categories, but as the awards began to be announced, it became clear that Oscar was interested in having a close encounter with one film in particular. Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind was the evening's big winner, taking home prizes in all 12 categories in which it was nominated, including Best Picture. The film also won big with many of the technical awards, collecting statues for Best Cinematography, Visual Effects, Art Direction, and Original Score.
I think it's an epic story. It is the most intelligent science fiction story ever written.
It was no surprise that actor Richard Dreyfuss took home an Oscar, seeing as he was nominated not once but twice for his work in The Goodbye Girl and for Close Encounters, ultimately winning for his role as alien-obsessed Roy Neary. Fan favorite Star Wars went home with 2 awards in technical categories, while the critically praised Annie Hall took home just 1 award, with Diane Keaton winning for Best Actress in a Leading Role. With its decisive victory, Close Encounters seems to solidify the impact the space program is having on the broader culture, both in America and across the world.
We bought it, we paid for it, we built it, and we intend to keep it. That was the statement from the Reagan administration today in response to the Panamanian president's demands that the U.S. relinquish control of the Panama Canal. Panama's demands for the canal to be signed over have intensified in recent years as Panama has come under the influence of the Soviet Union. Anti-American riots have broken out across the country during the 15-year anniversary of Martyrs' Day. The Panamanian national holiday commemorates the 28 men and women who were killed during riots in response to the tearing down of a Panamanian flag over the canal. And now, 15 years later, history seems to be repeating itself as more anti-American riots and demands for ownership of the canal grip the country. The Reagan administration reversed the more conciliatory policies of President Kennedy, holding firm that the canal will remain under the ownership of the United States.
Are democracies required to remain passive while threats to their security and prosperity accumulate? Must we just accept the destabilization of an entire region from the Panama Canal to Mexico on our southern border? Must we sit by while independent nations of this hemisphere are integrated into the most aggressive empire the modern world has seen? I don't believe there's a majority in the Congress or the country that counsels passivity, resignation, defeatism in the face of this challenge to freedom and security in our own hemisphere.
The canal is a key transportation route for assets of U.S. military and space programs, including the crucial Seadragon rocket, as it makes its way from Cape Kennedy to its launch site near Guam. With Jamestown construction increasingly reliant on additional Seadragon flights, the president seems determined to deliver on his campaign promise to hold on to the canal at all costs.
We interrupt your program with breaking news. There has been an assassination attempt on John Lennon, peace activist and former member of the Beatles. Here's what we know. Lennon had been at the Record Plant Studios in Midtown Manhattan, where he was working on a new, highly publicized anti-war song, when at approximately 9 this evening, Lennon exited the studio with fellow musician Burley Day. At that time, a man appeared and opened fire, striking Lennon twice. New York police officers responding to shots fired took the suspect into custody, and Mr. Lennon was rushed to Roosevelt Hospital, where he is undergoing surgery in an attempt to save his life. The suspect in custody is 25-year-old Mark David Chapman. The motive for the shooting is still unclear at this time. I'm told we have Mr. Lennon's companion, Burley Day, on the phone. Mr. Day, first, are you all right?
Yes, I'm okay.
That's good to hear. What can you tell us about what happened tonight?
I don't know, this whole day's been crazy, man. I got a call this morning. Could I come play keys for John? Somebody dropped out last minute.
And what happened when you left the studio?
Well, we were headed to the car when I heard someone shout to him, Mr. Lennon. We both turned around, and I saw this guy just down the sidewalk pointing a gun. At first I froze, but when he started shooting, I don't know what happened. I just rushed the dude. I grabbed him, and we both hit the ground. I saw the gun fall out of his hand, and all these people rushed in and helped me keep him down.
Did the shooter say anything before the police arrived? Did he give any indication as to why he did what he did?
Didn't say anything. At least not that I heard. Everything was just happened so fast.
I know you and Mr. Lennon were working on an anti-war song. Do you think this might have been politically motivated?
I have no idea why that lunatic did what he did. I just hope John's okay.
Well, we have good news on that front, Mr. Day. We've just had word from the surgical team at Roosevelt Hospital that John Lennon is out of surgery and in stable condition. He's expected to make a full recovery.
Oh, thank God.
As we get more information, we will keep you all updated. But for now, we return you to your regularly scheduled programming.
The Pentagon today released a brief statement confirming the first launch of a U.S. space shuttle intended solely for military use. Other than the date and the time of the launch just 3 days ago, the statement contained few details about the shuttle's mission or cargo. The shuttle launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base in Southern California and returned to the base after spending 3 days in Earth orbit. We have been able to independently confirm that the shuttle's orbit likely brought it over the Mideast region, which has been in a state of unrest since the failed Camp David talks between Israel and Egypt. While the shuttles currently used by NASA were initially designed with military applications in mind, this is the first time the Department of Defense has confirmed that a shuttle was used specifically for a military operation. Due to its ability to fly at great speed above Earth's atmosphere, the shuttle has the ability to attack targets with little to no warning. And with the Soviet Union claiming to be months away from launching its own shuttle, the so-called space race appears to have taken an ominous turn.
Good evening. I'm Amy Chang, reporting from Washington with the latest on what may be the most perilous confrontation in the Cold War since the Cuban Missile Crisis. The streets of West Berlin are quiet again following a tense standoff between East and West at the Berlin Wall. The standoff began yesterday evening when Clara and Gunter Seltzer scaled the wall in an attempt to escape from East Germany to freedom in the West. East German and Soviet border guards pursued them into West Berlin in a tank, and the couple was killed. The East German tank was then met by heavily armored U.S. and West German troops, and small arms fire was briefly exchanged before settling into a tense standoff that lasted into the early hours of the morning. With neither side showing signs of retreat and signals of Soviet reinforcement, the American Defense Alert status was raised to DEFCON 4, a move the Reagan administration defended as justified in light of recent Soviet aggression.
The United States does not start fights. We will never be an aggressor. We maintain our strength in order to deter and defend against aggression, to preserve freedom and peace.
In Moscow, Soviet General Secretary Yuri Andropov warned President Reagan that his words were moving the U.S. and Soviet Union towards the dangerous red line of nuclear war. Following commitments from NATO, British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher responded to Andropov's statement in strong terms.
Mr. Andropov has replied, "I hope now that the proposals will be seriously discussed by the Soviet Union at the negotiating table. If they are not successful in reaching zero option, the cruise and Pershing missiles will be deployed by the end of this year. Our nerve is being tested. We must not falter now."
NATO allies are being alternately praised for their deft handling of the crisis and criticized for not reacting to Soviet violations of international law and human rights. We will continue to monitor the situation and keep you updated with news from Berlin.